Hello and happy, beautiful day to you. Welcome to today's quick IQ episode. And on these IQ episodes, we of course talk about insights and questions. And today we have a really great question from a listener regarding children. And basically her question is there anything that we can do to help proactively help our kids to grow up happy and healthy and also just positivity in their lives? And I would say this. I would ask you the question that, if you stop and think about it for a moment, how the mind works. We've heard before that if kids don't get positive attention, they'll get what? They'll get negative attention. And negative attention can show up in so many different ways. It could show up as sympathy. It can show up as illness or, somebody, of course, acting out, where kids can act out or create problems, even at a subconscious level. It's not like they're doing it on purpose. And so sometimes that reaching out can feel needy. And so what I would invite you to do is notice that in your life, if your kids are reaching out from a place of, let's say that they do want love, and so they're reaching out, but it feels needy, or it feels wanting, or it feels sympathy, or it feels in a small or sympathetic type of way. Now, let's be honest. If we think about children, and if a child reaches out to you from a place of sympathy, what do you want to do? You want to hug them. You want to love them. That becomes a response. Or if they're feeling needy, what do you want to do? Reach out and hug them, love them. The problem is that these patterns can get linked up in exactly that way. So if they're tired and they're wanting their love, and that becomes a patterned way that they're reaching out to you, you'll want to notice that and instead say, wait a second, what is a different patterned way that they could be? Because when you stop and think about it for a moment, if children grow up and they have a patterned way of getting love through neediness, who is that going to make them as an adult? Because as we know, our patterns create more of the same. So I've seen people who grow up as adults, and that's exactly what shows up. They have a pattern of feeling very needy to get love and connection. And then because they're needy, the problem is that it can backfire. And so that's what I would say is notice the way that your children have patterned ways of getting love and connection. And some of them might be great, some of them might be not so great. But I would say, watch out for those not so great ones, the ones that might be sympathy or problems or whining, being needy or whatnot. And think to yourself, wait a second, if this pattern has shown up many times, how could I not reward this pattern, but instead create a positive pattern? And so maybe instead that they're going to get a little sleepy and you say, hey, come over here and give me a big hug and give me a hug. I love you so much. And then you put them to bed on a positive note. You think about how you can spin it into a positive way to then connect with them in that place. Or let's say that they have a tendency, just noticing what are their patterns. And if they have needy patterns or sympathy patterns, I'd invite you to see how you can proactively get ahead of those. How you can give them also positive ways to connect with you. And so going back to that first awareness we talked about, if a child doesn't know how to get positive attention, they'll get negative attention. You could also just ask yourself, what are some positive ways that they know they could get love and connection? And, sometimes I have to say that can be as easy as having family dinner together and asking them what great things or how their day was, but just asking them what was positive in your day today? What was the funnest part of your day? Or something like that to help them connect over positivity, but also then to shower them with love. So you say, what was something fun in your day? And they say this. And you say, it was this and this and this. And you say, oh, that's really great. Tell me more about that. That is so neat. Or whatever it is. So it's not just asking them, but then also taking a few moments to say, wow, that's really, really cool. So it's not just like, oh, That's what you did with your day. But so they feel something, because the more we feel something, the more impactful it is. As the example you hear me use, unfortunately, all of the time is, trauma is very impactful. There's a lot of emotions. And so it becomes memorable, of course. Or positive things happen too, getting married or having a wonderful time. And so if you could even just make those moments impactful, where they say something they did and you say, wow, that's really cool. Or how fun. Like, what else? Like, elicit some emotion with them to help feel that. Because of course, positive emotion and excitement and love, when those emotions make up our lives, and in knowing that patterns breed more of the same, you're infusing those emotions with them. And so I would say that is another insight as well, is that if there is a moment of positivity with them, even in these moments of positivity, how can you amplify it to feel something? Even when you love them and you tell them you love them, a lot of times somebody might do it in a routine way. Hey, I love you. Oh, I love you. Have a great day. I love you too. And it becomes a routine. And sometimes there's not that much emotions into it where you feel it. And so instead, you could just give them a big hug and say, I love you so much, and make a point to make them feel something. Because if you can amplify this in a sweet, loving, wonderful way, it goes a long way towards being memorable and having them feel it. And of course, these feelings are good for their health, their happiness, creating more patterns, their feeling of oxytocin and love and connection and all of the goodness, which can also help reduce the negative emotions, but negative chemicals in the body, the stress chemicals in the body, and all of the things. And so it can be helpful from a perspective of understanding that patterns breed more of the same. And so that can be helpful for setting them up for a really powerful, positive life. And it can also be helpful for just positive chemicals in their body and their biochemistry. So it can be helpful on so many levels. And so even if they are in an off state, let's say you've had a child who's been depressed for a while, a lot of times I have seen people create a radical shift with their children by doing that very thing, by starting to feed the positive in a great way and creating easy ways to create love and connection, but also making sure that they feel loved in a positive way and really feeling that. So those are some things that you could do, and even just paying attention to the patterns, noticing the patterns and creating that strong feelings around good and linking up the good patterns for no reason and for every reason, purposely linking that up. Hey, what did you do? That's so great. Or even they're just being kind or thoughtful or smart or sweet or loving or whatever it is, acknowledging it, loving it in them. So they'll repeat those positive patterns in their lives. So those are the few things that you could do. Now, of course, as an adult, if you're here, you could also apply this same awareness to yourself. You could apply the same awareness towards your partner or towards people in your life, where you're making a point to make sure that they feel loved in positive ways, and even that you feel loved in positive ways. So there's so many ways to get this in, but when we can proactively notice the patterns and create and establish positive patterns of connection, it can go a long ways towards positivity, towards healing, towards happiness, and towards creating a great life. When we think in terms that patterns breed more of the same, that's really something that is important to hone in on. And the reason I say that is because of this. Let's be honest. Most people have heard about positive thinking by now, but they don't think in terms of patterns. And so something that has really set my work apart is exactly that, is establishing what I call positive emotional patterning, which is creating and establish the positive patterning over and over and over and over and over repeatedly, because instead of just creating a positive emotion, which is great, positive emotions are wonderful, thinking in terms of patterns. So if you do something once, do it again and again several times to then establish that new way of thinking, feeling. And so your children then end up getting that in, that they know certain things work for them. and they get it in. They want to repeat the pattern, if you will, and it establishes new neural pathways. And so that can be powerful to help create that connection and ongoing changes in their life. So that said, those are a few tips from today's quick IQ episode. And as always, if you could make a point to please hit the share button on this episode, share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know, because the more that every single person feels happy and healthy and loved and loving and empowered, the better this world is for all of us. And of course, as we know, even if we think about these patterns of connection or love, it's well known that loneliness or disconnect or hurt or sympathy, like any of these feelings of loneliness, can increase illness. And we know that, and that's been proven. And so when we just bring in patterns of positivity and love and connection, it can help create that foundation for positivity, for healing, for happiness, for all of the above. And so on that note, please do hit the share button, and also please do make a point to have a most wonderful, incredible rest of your day. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there. Thank you for listening to Heal Yourself, Change Your Life. All of the time, people reach out and say how much these episodes have given them hope or touched their heart or helped them stay positive in hard times or even woken them up to a completely new level of awareness of how amazing we all really are. If today's episode touched your heart or expanded your mind in any way, please do me a favor and be sure to share it with those you care about or those you know who really need it. As more and more people become empowered, it really will change our world for the better. That is the point and the power of these demonstrations, is to create a radical shift in our world consciousness by showing everyone what we are all capable of. And of course, each volunteer will really need to follow through to reinforce their programming to maintain their results. But the point is for you to see that you really can create rapid results in your health and your life if you really understand how to use your mind. You're incredible. And I do want to be clear, though, that most people will not get results this fast on their own. I make it look very easy because of the discoveries that I made. You'll want to remember that there's so much more going on in our minds at a deeper level than people realize. That said, if you want to send me any questions or comments, come visit me on my website at BrandyGillmore.com/podcast. And if you're currently experiencing physical pain and would like to be a volunteer on the show, you can sign up there as well. Lastly, please remember, if you do have any health issues, you won't want to avoid your doctors. Instead, you'll want to continue seeing them and make it your goal to blow their minds with what you're capable of with your mind. Thank you.